Okay, guys, Monday night. It's been a while, actually, since you've had the Novaks on a Monday night. We're going to be talking tonight. We're going to be unpacking some stuff about our social media. We do get asked about it a lot, and we don't come on air and talk about it a lot, so we're going to share that with you shortly.
Taking it back to 2018. So
Yeah.
5 years ago.
I'm just trying to work that out. Yes, 5 years ago.
2 years before COVID.
Yeah.
And today's a live show. So if you've got any questions, there's no such thing as a silly question. Throw the questions at us. We're here to answer. But 5 years ago seems a long way away. And
we've learned a lot.
How the world's changed. It was
Yeah.
a little bit spacey back then. It was like, is this really a thing? Are people really going to consume real estate that way? And
yeah, I remember doing a video really early on. I remember doing a raw video. It was down at a property in DY Pacific Parade, and I did this really awful just raw video, and I put it out onto my social media, and literally within minutes a guy had responded saying, that is the most unprofessional video I've ever seen. You should be embarrassed. And I was like, oh, oops.
Well, and also if you rewind it back then, it was if there was video content, it was the slow walking real estate agent with zooms and back and forward and left and right. It was quite pro, but it was quite irregular. So by the time those guys and girls got a video up, it would take a week or two to go into production to come out, and then they would probably run it once, or they'd run it and attach it to the realestate.com.au ad, but it never was like consistently out there in the market. And then, yeah, the raw stuff came out, the stuff where it was face to camera, piece to camera.
Yep.
Talking to the camera. There was it was live, which was big. You know what I mean? So
daunting.
And there was no room for error.
Yep. So I mean,
and it was Facebook.
Mostly Facebook at that time. I mean, I slowly transitioned into Instagram and then later on LinkedIn and now TikTok, which we're going to talk about shortly. But I remember, Mark, just getting these raw, authentic videos out. And one of the very first ones I did was out of necessity for a vendor.
Yep.
And he actually had no money for marketing. And I do talk about this quite a lot, particularly in a lot of the talks that I do. And it was just out of necessity. He had no money for marketing. He was a very proud man.
Yep.
He wouldn't accept any money for marketing. So I thought, you know what? I'm just going to do one of these raw, authentic videos. And literally within about an hour, I had received a phone call from a real estate agent. And I remember at the time she called up and she goes, Lisa, I've just seen your video that you've done on Facebook. And I was like, you have? And she said, I have. And the first thing I thought of was, oh, my goodness, I'll bet she's got a buyer. And her next thing that she said to me was, that's embarrassing. You wouldn't know this, but we just don't real estate that way. You should probably pull it down. It's embarrassing for you and your brand. And I got off the phone and I called you, Mark. And I said, oh, my goodness, blah, blah's just called me and said about the video that I've just done. What do I do? Should I pull it down? And you were like, no. And anyway, I kept the video up and it ended up selling that property the very next day off my Facebook page. And that was a really pivotal moment for me and for my social media personally, because I thought to myself, this is actually not about me. This is about clients. And if we have another way of being able to market property and get our vendors sold, then this is a wonderful, wonderful tool. And so I started actually taking the onus off myself and what this meant for me and started focusing on the clients. And I often say, Mark, the people vote. The people, you guys out there, you vote. And if we can fast forward 5 years and you let the numbers do the talking, we're going to talk about some stats in a moment because I think they'll blow your mind.
Stats.
I
love stats.
Yeah. But Mark, do you remember we were at a party, at a friend's party? We'd been doing our social media for about 6 months, and we're on the Central Coast. And we're based in DY, guys, on the northern beaches of Sydney. We're nowhere near the Central Coast. We're about 2 hours away, an hour and a half, 2 hours away. And a girlfriend of ours came up. She goes, guys, some friends of mine over there, they really want to meet you. And we're like, oh, okay, yeah. And she goes, no, they're like fans. They follow you on social media. And we're like, what? What do you mean they follow us on social media? And it was true. And I reckon that was the moment where we were like, hang on a sec. I think there's actually more people that are viewing this than what we realised, because we felt stupid. I must say, the first 6 months we really did.
Yeah, I do have to say, for anyone who's had a go on social, it doesn't feel rewarding. Like, it doesn't feel like there's, it's great, but then the people talk, do you know what I mean? So the word gets, and it keeps resonating back, and you keep getting the positive feedback, but it's hard to actually measure a dollar against it. So it's always been hard for us, but we always knew that if it was, feature rich content that people really wanted to know, and I always personally related it back to, what are we talking about every day in the last couple of days on the telephone? Let's talk about that on social, because it's like, if we can amplify and resonate with the current topics, the current issues, the current questions that people are asking us individually on the phone every day, let's put that out on the social. And that's when it started getting more and more interest from people, because like, yeah, actually I was thinking that question.
And not only that, it's funny, you would ordinarily think that it's people in real estate. So what we did, as Mark said, not only do we obviously put our, pre-market or off-market properties onto our social media, buy it now before it goes to the real estate portals, which has been enormous. But there's another layer there, and that is just getting the information out to the people. I mean, if you guys have ever gone online and tried to, Google the best way to bid at an auction, or you guys were talking about this morning, trust fund money, what happens, where does your money go, is it safe? I mean, different topics every single morning. Where do you even start to find this information?
Yeah.
So
and it's localized. So there's a lot of information not out there, but if there are fragments or pieces of it, they're very national pieces. So, News Corp may talk about it, or some of the major publishing houses, but it's not really local to where you are. You want to know from your local real estate agent in Bondi or DY or Castle Hill. So it's given a lot of power to consumers, a lot of information localized to consumers. And what I found, it's something that always freaked people out, which they thought was kooky, was the way algorithms work. So people were like, you really have to pay for it, or, to get it sponsored and stuff out there. But what's really interesting with these, the likes of Facebook and Instagram and these guys, is they're searching for content for the people that are viewing. So we simply had to put up the content, good content, and it automatically found its way to where it needed to go. So we didn't have to be, analysts or, spending a fortune behind it. And it just naturally gravitated to the people that we needed to. A recent example is, I always liken Lisa's phone to a poker machine. Once you put a post up, it just goes with inquiries coming through. But it never ceases to, like, even just the other day you did it, and it never ceases to amaze me. Yeah, that. And people that will talk about content that you put up when you see them in the street, you're thinking, shit, I never even how many times you've said it to yourself, I never even realised you're on my socials, and they're there.
Well, we were out a couple of weeks ago, and I remember someone had pulled us up, and they go, are you guys the Novaks? And we were like, yes. And he goes, we started a conversation. Mark goes, oh, what agency do you work for? He goes, oh, no, I'm not in real estate. He was he's in the building game. So, you think that it's only going to be people that are interested in buying, selling, or real estate agents, or, someone who's in the industry, but not so. But I do just want to point a few things out. So everything that we do is not sponsored. We don't sponsor posts, not to say that you shouldn't, because often when I'm doing training to other agents, I'm always saying, guys, understand it's the cheapest form of marketing money can buy. The real estate section of the newspaper in our area became obsolete a long time ago, a couple of years ago. And if that is the case and you're an agent in your area, you've got to ask yourself, what did you then replace that with? Because I'm always saying if the answer is nothing, then you probably should be worried, because most people these days, I mean, even my mum, who's in her 70s, she'll kill me for saying that, but my mum's on social media. And so it has a very far reach of a very big demographic these days. And it's not to say that we only do social media. We don't. That's what we're talking about tonight. We do an enormous amount of marketing in addition to the social media.
We do a lot of print.
We do a huge amount of print. I love signboards. I love good old-fashioned stuff into the letterbox. You know, there's the newsletters. I mean, we do all sorts of stuff. It's not just socials. But the reason that we do draw down so much on social media is that it has been so incredible, and, you know, not for our business, but it has been incredible for our business, but it's been incredible for our clients and our community. That's the truth. I mean, you only need to go through a lot of the reviews that we get, and people will say, I can't believe it. You know, they literally sold my property that quickly for a huge price. And it went out on their social media, and that was it. It has been enormous for our clients and our community, and the real estate community. I had a lovely girl flying in here from the Sunshine Coast on, I think it was on Thursday. She'd come down to meet me. She was following me on my socials and wanted to say thank you for the information that we've been able to provide over the years.
So, Lisa, if you were a plumber, electrician, working in a gym, and you wanted business, what would be the top 3 things you'd recommend to those guys? So you saw a personal trainer, she walks off the street, she says, I want more business and I want to go social. What would be the things that you'd recommend?
Live video content. Live video content is really, really important. I consume so much of my content these days on TikTok. People think TikTok are just, you know, young teenagers dancing. It's not that at all. TikTok is where I mean, Mark and I are married. Mark knows I consume so much content on TikTok. But the live stuff is really important if you want to get that traction on your social media.
Go live.
So you got to go live. And I actually find that it's easier to go live than to do the pre-record. Again, I had this lovely agent from the Sunshine Coast in here the other day. And I said to her, just do it, because there's no room for error, but B, you don't have to do that awkward thing, you know, where you like go through the video and you like self-criticize yourself and then you re-record it again and then you re-record it again.
That'd be my number 1.
What, the lives?
Don't go back and watch your content.
Don't go back and watch it.
I think you're more inclined to ripping it down and redoing it again, and then what would normally take you 5 minutes takes you 50 minutes after you've done a couple of takes, checked it, reworded it, watched it. It's like, just leave it, do another one. Leave it, do another one.
The other really big one is
number
2 is consistency. This is so important. I cannot even tell you guys. We had a friend, I can't remember, it was last week, they were over, and they said, don't you just get sick and tired of doing all of that, you know, social media stuff? And I said, and he said, I remember he was saying to me, like, you know, aren't you just sort of, you know, having to go over the same stuff over and over again? If you guys think about the news, and it comes on it used to come on every single night. Now we get news all day on our phone. And the weather. It's just like there is never, ever information that we're going to run out of giving, ever. There is so much to report all the time, but consistency is the big thing. So you've got to be showing up all the time, guys. I mean, we're spending, I would say, probably at minimum 3 hours a day doing a lot of the social media stuff. We've been out half the day today filming all the bits and pieces for all the new properties and making sure that social media content is up and relevant. But if you're just starting out, you should be doing a minimum of 15 minutes every single day.
Yep.
Every single day.
Yep. Number 3.
Don't listen to the noise. Don't listen to the noise. So that's a really hard thing. If you are going to be putting yourself or your business out onto social media, you are actually going to get critics. And I'm not saying trolls and things like that. I and we as a business don't actually get a lot of it, which is great.
But it does knock you. It still knocks you though. I had a guy today. I put something on TikTok, and he said something like, "How silly! It's so local." And I was like, "Well, yeah, we're a real estate agency in a local suburb.
Yeah.
That's pretty normal." But it makes you think. And it makes you that noise makes you like you should be on. I should be focused on other stuff, not on like some rattly comment.
Yeah,
but
but
it always comes up.
You can't listen to the noise, because at the end of the day, we are here. We are reporting the information for you guys. I love that I have built up my audience, and I've got about 40,000 followers now collectively across Insta, LinkedIn, my 2 Facebook accounts, and TikTok. And I love that that's organic, that I built that organically over time. I never sponsored stuff, and the people that are on there have opted to be on there. And if they don't want to view the content, they can opt to not be on there. So I don't force feed that information out to people. And that's probably why I don't get a lot of trolls. But don't listen to the noise. At the end of the day, you cannot be all things to all people. You cannot. And even if we're delivering DL cards, Mark, out to people, DL cards, the good old-fashioned DL, you're still going to get people that are going to say, I don't want that stuff in my letterbox, go away. You can't be all things to all people, guys. Understand that.
When you started putting stuff on social, when did you find it delivering back dollars and love?
Look,
was it see you later? Was it
almost immediate? I must say it was almost immediate, and it's built over time. It literally has built over time. I actually had a buyer call me the other day and say, "Can you not post it to your Facebook or social media until you've called me?" But I really felt like it delivered quite quickly. But if we rewind 5 years ago, there wasn't a lot of this sort of stuff on social media. Now a lot of agents are putting their off-markets, pre-markets onto their socials. So it was really standing out.
And where I found it really kicked was COVID. Because when everyone's hands were tied, the world went hyper digital with meetings from home and face to camera. People got really comfortable with doing a Zoom. On a camera, being on a camera. It was almost like you didn't have a choice to say no. But I found that we had already, 2 or 3 years of a sort of platform. And then that's when it really went spastic, and people really, really went hard on the ground with social. Yeah, so it was really, really big.
I almost feel like we were kind of set up, definitely not for COVID, please don't get me wrong, but we were almost set up for that when we were in lockdown and we still had to get the content out.
Yeah.
And, there were times when we couldn't show an open home, or, we had access to a property doing a one-on-one inspection, but all of a sudden that person got COVID and we couldn't get through. And so we had a lot of this video content that we could get out. But Mark, I want to ask you a question, because every single day we are showing up on social media. We do the morning minutes every single morning with such good topics that are out there. We try and cover a huge smorgasbord of topics. How do you come up with the stuff every day? Because you're on there every day with another team member of the Novak team.
Topics that have brought us undone or challenged us in the last day or two, or widely spoken about topics within our office. So we've got 40-50 staff. There's always something that's challenging the crew. And it's like, let's surface that and let's give our solutions to that. And look, some of these solutions that we're offering are, after 30 years, what I've learned.
Yeah.
So it's like, that to me, I'm sure it's valuable to me, and I probably take it for granted, but some people are just yearning for that information. And we actually have hacked it. We've short-circuited it. we've got to the bottom of it really quick. We make sure people don't fall into those problems. That's how we protect our clients. So by offering that online, I think it's just, great information to get out there, and pretty hard to read. Like, where would I go on Google to find that?
Well, that's what I'm always saying.
Like, it's just,
the little nuggets of information.
Often this information finds you because of the way the algorithm works with Facebook, Insta, and TikTok. So they're doing the work to match the things up that we're putting up online to the people that need that, without them realizing, without us realizing. So it works a treat.
And so you don't, but so in the mornings there's usually a phone call that starts at about 7:30. And Mark's usually talking to someone from the team, whoever's on in the mornings, and there's a quick discussion about what are we going to talk about today, but it's a quick run through, because it's important in one aspect, I guess, to plan, because you want the show to go smoothly, but you don't always have to plan, guys. Understand, and I always say this again when I'm doing a lot of training, when you're going to meet a friend for a drink, you're not thinking on the way there, what are we going to talk about? How are we going to say it? How long are we going to talk for? It should just flow, because a lot of the information that we give is stuff that we ordinarily know, that we think is just normal. Don't people know what a Section 66W is in real estate? Don't people know what a cooling off period is? The answer is no, they don't.
And also there's a tolerance, like being a live show, that sometimes you may not word it how you quite wanted to word it, or may not come out how you wanted to come out. And that was really hard, I think, with live content, because it's so important to get out live content, but people are so critical. They will literally take that 5 seconds or that 2 seconds or that comment or word, and they'll actually know you for it. But when you're delivering 20 minutes of content, it's pretty hard to get every word right, and but it comes from the heart. Like, you're trying to you're doing the best you can.
Yeah.
And I think people know that, and they tolerate that for that reason, because they know it's from, you can't get every word right. So the hardest thing is when you're giving the live content, just give yourself a little bit of slack, because the public will, because they know it's, live content every day, and you're doing it for 20 minutes every day. So I think don't beat yourself up on it. And look, there have been times where we've had stuff on social, we've just had to take it down. And that's through backlash,
or it's been used as a great avenue to address things. We did a mail out that we did a mail out that we've been doing for 20 years. Our job is to give pricing to landlords, to give pricing to vendors. And so we were just doing what we were naturally doing, putting DL drops into letterboxes and saying, would you like to know what the new value of your property is? And it hit home hard, because this rental crisis that's ongoing had just started, and it was a very, very raw topic. And we got an enormous amount of backlash, and which, we honestly weren't doing anything wrong. It was just what our business is, what agents do. We price up property for people. But our social media allowed us this great avenue to be able to address that and have an open forum and say, guys, tenants, tell us what you think. Landlords, tell us what you think. So it was just a wonderful way to have a great open conversation, as opposed to having the media contact you. You make a comment, they completely misconstrue potentially something that you've said, and it's like, hang on, I didn't say it that way. That's not at all what I was going to say. We could literally control the narrative. So it is a very, very powerful tool. I just want to quickly talk about TikTok. Have we got any questions tonight? Everyone's a bit quiet.
Nope.
I do want to quickly talk about TikTok, because we have been getting our content out onto TikTok. I love TikTok. I consume so much of my content on there. I think it's an awesome platform. And I naturally assumed that the content that I was putting out onto Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn, I would just, pop straight into TikTok, and it would just,
But Lise, that's how they all started.
So well.
That's how they all started.
It's been a slow climb. I'm not going to lie.
But if you think about Facebook, everyone was like, Facebook, and then it became a thing.
Yeah.
And then Instagram was like, Instagram, it's just photos. You can't put text over photos. And then it became a thing.
Yeah.
And then TikTok was the same thing.
Yeah.
It came all three of those social media mediums all started off with like, it was like, yeah, right, whatever. And it became a big thing.
Yeah.
It's weird. But I find TikTok is borderline creepy and unapologetic. They will happily monitor and track you and give back you what you want. So you sort of forgive them a little bit, but sometimes it's like, man, that's really weird. Like the weirdness of TikTok is like times 10 of the weirdness of Instagram and Facebook. They unapologetically track what your shopping habits are or what your interests are and give you what you want faster.
Oh, absolutely. In terms of consuming, but I'm talking about in terms of actually posting content there. And you know, what looked like it was a raw, authentic video 5 years ago when we first started in social media, when we take that same content and put it onto TikTok, it's actually not raw and authentic enough. Because if you have a look at the people that are there on TikTok, there are actually people that have got real issues that are pouring their heart and soul out to the world on TikTok. And so if you want to draw down on what raw and authentic looks like, there is a whole lot of content on there. And there's times when I'm just thinking, oh my goodness, like, you know, there's some poor mum crying in her car about what an awful mum she is, and she's opening her heart up to the whole world. And I think that's raw and authentic
that's one
content.
Extreme. The other extreme, which I'm having a giggle over, is Steve and I did a commercial video live, and then we got challenged by 2 teenagers on live.
Oh, did you?
So we're
yeah, that's right.
So we're like, someone wants to join you for a challenge. We're like, okay, press that button. Anyway, we don't know who's challenging us. And 2 like 15-year-old girls turn up on the screen and we're like, oh, hi. And they're like, well, we're going to see who gets the most amount of credits or cards or whatever they were. You know, come on, guys, tap us if you tap us for a trophy. And then we're just looking at them, and then they go, you got to tell the crowd to tap you for a trophy. And then Steve and I going, come on, guys, tap us for a trophy. We made 58 cents. So we didn't realise we actually got paid for doing this game.
That's so funny.
with and it went for like about 5
I've
10
never
minutes.
seen that.
It's the weirdest thing. So
I've
I
never
don't know.
seen that.
It's definitely out there. It's definitely.
But we're,
changing.
you know, but the point that I want to make, guys, is that you just don't give up with that sort of stuff. So eventually we will just get the flow of how TikTok works, because the content that we film and then take it and put it onto TikTok isn't getting enough traction. It's growing. It's definitely growing. But it's that consistency. Don't give up. The consistency will pay off. And what we were saying at the beginning of the show is we were doing this stuff, honestly, for 6 months and thought, is anyone even watching this stuff? And then those people turned up on the Central Coast and said, oh, my God, I follow everything that you guys do.
Thank you, Mr. Price.
Hey, Ray. Hope you're well.
Hey, Ray.
Hope you're well, Ray.
Do you know what the bottom line is? We've hand on my heart, not trying to pull on heartstrings, but we've always had people's best intentions at heart. So whether it's a seller, what they're after, what they're seeking, whether it's a buyer, what they're after, they're seeking, we've tried to sort of connect the people by doing it online. So it's never been about, you know, how good it is, how good are we? It's always been about, you know, what do the people want to know? So, you know, sure, even if it's a record price, well, we think you want to know that as well. It's not just beating your chest, but yeah.
But, you know, make no mistake, guys, it is an enormous amount of hard work. Enormous amount of hard work. We do this all organically. We do not outsource it. I can guarantee you every bit of content that goes onto my social media is filmed by me and is posted by me. Every single comment that is answered is responded to by me. That is not outsourced. That is not a robot. Fun fact, I actually had someone message me on my social media. It was 4 a.m. the other morning. I don't know what the hell I was doing up. And he wanted to get an appraisal on his property. And I wrote back I actually went out to the property today, but I wrote back to him at 4 o'clock in the morning. And today we were having a laugh about it, because he goes, is that like offshore, all the stuff that you do on your social media? I go, no, I'm a psycho. And that was me responding to you at 4 o'clock in the morning. He honestly couldn't believe it. He literally couldn't believe it. But we do it all ourselves because we want it to be authentic. We want it to be organic. You can outsource. I I don't know if you get such great results. I don't like the robotic stuff. I like to do it all myself.
But
good, bad, different, whatever you want to call it. You know, the reality is it does work. It has added value to our business. It has added value to our buyers and sellers and our community. And that is why we continue to do it.
Yep.
That's why.
that's a show.
That's a show. That's it, guys.
Anything else you want to conclude on?
Nope.
We love you.
See you guys.
Have a good one. Say bye.
Bye.